On today's episode of the Baseline Scoop, Justin and I discuss the recent power rankings from ESPN and where the Sixers fall. And we also take a look at the latest in the Kevin Durant rumors. And as it turns out, that Kevin Durant is now starring in a little show that we like to call Much Ado About Nothing. Finally, we take a look at the Sixers schedule, which dropped last week. And we take a look, Justin and I, seeing what our top 5 anticipated games are for the upcoming season. Hope you enjoy.
It's 89-84. Sixers, and they get inside. Unbelievable. Julius Erving had it leaning underneath. He was fouled. All the way from right side. Julius in the air, palm it over the right hand. Floating, reaching, and spinning it in. Watch this fantastic move by the Doctor.
All right. Welcome to the 50th episode of the Baseline Scoop. Thank you so much for joining us. I, of course, am Zach Chavalella, here with my man, Justin Crosby. Justin, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. We got some good stuff to talk about today.
Yeah, it's some exciting, some like, what the hell. And then there's whatever the Kevin Durant stuff is. So we'll go through all that today, but the first and foremost thing that we wanted to talk about, ESPN, right, dropped their basketball power rankings, right? And the Philadelphia 76ers were, of course, on it, at a decent spot, but they are top 10, but they're number 10. So, Justin, like real quick, how do you feel about that right off the jump? Is 10 fair? Is it a little too high? Is it too low? Like what are we thinking here?
I don't know. I mean, it's we haven't seen people, full roster. I mean, moves have been made, but KD kind of stopped coming to stuff. But I mean, I think it's kind of fair. I do think that it should be a little higher. Real quickly, I'll go through the top 10. So those who are listening know Golden State 1, Boston 2, Milwaukee 3, Memphis 4, Phoenix 5, Clippers 6, Miami 7, Dallas 8, Denver 9, Sixers 10. I do personally feel like they should be over the Denver Nuggets, Dallas Mavericks, and Miami Heat. So I guess they should be 7th in my opinion. I think Miami got worse. I do think Dallas, I mean, they lost Jalen Brunson. I mean, and they got Christian Wood and JaVale McGee. Like, those aren't things that necessarily dramatically change the outlook for the team, in my opinion. Luka is amazing. So if anybody can drag what my friends call a bunch of 70 overalls to the conference finals again, it's Luka. And then, you got, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter coming back, but we don't know necessarily what those guys have in the tank. Specifically, Michael Porter Jr., like the back is a major situation. Like to get back surgery is major. So I know they got KCP, Bruce Brown. I know Jamal Murray returning, and I'm assuming that Jamal Murray's gonna come back super healthy. He took a whole year and a half off. He should be ready to go, and he'll probably be an all-star. But Michael Porter Jr. is a real big if to me. So I do think the Sixers got much better, and I think not necessarily adding that star talent, but literally shoring up the holes that the Sixers had going into last year's postseason, and kind of some things they needed to work on now, which was toughness, rebounding, athleticism.
Yeah. First of all, I think overall you're absolutely right. 10, I think, is egregiously low for the 76ers. Now, I'm not saying that they're a top 3 team, not even necessarily top 5, although personally I would have them pushing it with the Phoenix Suns. When you look at these teams, right? So again, the teams above Philadelphia: Phoenix, Clippers, Miami, Dallas, and Denver. So let's kind of go through that one by one. The Phoenix Suns, they're coming through an insanely complicated offseason. And I have no idea what the team chemistry, especially with DeAndre Ayton, is going to look like with this team. I really I like to think that he's gonna try and like set the world on fire and show everyone that he deserves to be a top tier paid center in the league. If he does that, though, does that throw off the balance of the Phoenix Suns and what Monty Williams has done in Phoenix there? And along with that, apparently the Suns are looking for more of a post up power forward. Now, if they accomplish that goal, well, what does that do for Phoenix? Because that unless Monty's on, to something that not just myself, but nobody can really track with. What sense does it make to add a post up power forward in today's modern NBA? If I'm being flat honest, like what value is there to have that guy in over a Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder type? I can't tell you. So
And I think by post up power forward, he has to be talking about the likes of like Carmelo Anthony or like Tobias Harris, like that type of post up. I can't
like a
see
post
like
fadeaway type specifically,
yeah,
like
like I
that's
can't
a real like niche to be looking for and to like announce that you're looking for that. Like
I can't see them like looking for like I don't know like who like I don't know Dwight Howard and like Gortat when they played like just like a weird combo like that
well,
necessarily
my
doesn't
thing
work
is
anymore.
like if you're gonna just be hell bent on getting another big to play, like traditional type big to play next to DeAndre Ayton, he straight up called himself a power forward a couple years ago. Ayton did so. Like,
Yeah, for
put
sure.
him, make him a power forward, and then just see what happens.
And
Because if
have him go back to the basket.
yeah, like so, it just you try and get a guy who you can get for like a steal, like a Vucevic. Like there's
Mhm.
like you can get him to stretch, and you can get Ayton back to the basket. And I'm much more comfortable with that than I am the idea of going after, even if it is just a Carmelo Anthony, which I think is a terrible fit. That's the last thing that you need is a inefficient mid-range guy in Phoenix's nice spread offense there. But in any case, the Phoenix Suns, I'm not 100% certain that they're gonna be like the finals team they were 2 years ago. Moving on to the LA Clippers, getting Kawhi Leonard back, getting Paul George back, and on top of that, everyone else that they added, John Wall, they brought back Nick Batum, Zubac is back. I
Norman
get
Powell.
all of that. Like, yeah, Norm Powell, of course, Robert Covington had a great second half with them. I get all of that. I think of all the teams above the Sixers, I'm most willing to keep them above. But the one thing I will say is, like, ESPN's got to chill and like you got to not give these guys these rankings before you see them because we don't know how healthy Kawhi is. We don't know what he will look like. I think the same has to go for Paul George because he's seen a lot of usage in
Mhm.
recent years, especially with the load being taken off of Kawhi and kind of being put on him. So I do love the Clippers if healthy. It's just a big, and I'm not even acknowledging John Wall really, just because I mean I think we all know at this point. I hope he can do something, but it's just an inefficient guard who relied on athleticism at his age after the injuries he's seen. I'm not expecting much, if I'm being honest. Anything he gives them is gravy, which is great for LA. But I'm not going to use him as a reason for their expected success this season. But moving on to the Miami Heat, they got worse. Dallas Mavericks, I think they got worse. Christian Wood, he is a talented player. I don't think anyone's going to deny that. Clearly, he messed up that entire Houston Rockets locker room. Everybody was happy to see him go. The fans were happy to see him go. Didn't matter that they got virtually nothing for him, but they were just so excited to say goodbye to Christian Wood. The Vale McGee signing is definitely interesting. Losing Jalen Brunson definitely hurts though, so I'm not sold on Dallas. Like they're gonna be up there because Luka, like they're gonna be up there in the mix, but I'm not sold on them over the Sixers. And then Denver, like you said, Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., they're coming back both from very strenuous injuries, especially Porter with the back, like you said. Coming back from an injury like Murray had with the ACL, that's not easy, and it's going to take him some time to really get back into playing shape. So I'm not sold on Denver. Like, will they make the playoffs? Sure, of course they will. They have Jokic. They're not going to miss the playoffs, I don't think, in my mind. But on top of that, you lose Monte Morris, who's been huge for Denver. You lose, on top of that, Will Barton, who's been huge for Denver. and you bring in the Bruce Brown signing was nice, but you bring in Contavious Caldwell-Pope and Ish Smith to replace Will Barton and Monte Morris, and that's a loss if you ask me. So I don't love Denver heading into the season. For me, I would have the Sixers probably at 6 is where I would have them, and I might have the Clippers bumped up to 5 with the Suns down to 7.
Yeah, I wanted to jump in and say what I think it kind of boils down to is ESPN is giving a lot of people the benefit of the doubt, and they're not giving that to James Harden, which seems unfair to me. I mean, the media's kind of been on a James Harden slander spree for the last 2 to 3 years now. They're giving the benefit of the doubt to Jamal Murray, to Paul George and Kawhi Leonard, to even CP3, to say that he'll look more like he's looked the last 2 years instead of in that series against Dallas. But yeah, they're just not giving it to James Harden for whatever reason. If Harden can be, 80% of what he was in Houston, I mean, Philly's probably a top 3 team, right?
Yeah, and he's already looked great. Physically he's looked great. Athletically, the way that we've, and somebody somewhere is going to mention the Scotty Barnes lockup. I know that, but it's like when you look at everything about him this offseason, it's just screamed improvement, for what we're going to see next season. And on top of that, the Sixers themselves have improved. It's not just about healthy James Harden, which is huge, mind you, having healthy James Harden next season, but it's more than that. It's another year of chemistry between he and Embiid and Maxey and Harris. It's adding PJ Tucker and Daniel House and the one player who may be more important than any of them, DeAnthony Melton. I mean, you're talking about a guy who he's going to be the best sixth man Philadelphia's seen in some time, so to add all these players, to not have the Ben Simmons dilemma hanging over their heads anymore. Philadelphia clearly improved. There's so many, people outside myself, the general public opinion has been, this has been a great offseason for Philadelphia. To not reward them and to act as if nothing even really happened, that's insane to me.
But so 2 things. We know that the ESPN train, for some reason, just Philadelphia in general, specifically the Sixers, they just have a negative connotation on everything they say about Philly for the most part. Embiid got some praise. It's weird that Embiid got praised throughout the entire year, but then when it really came time to vote, nobody voted for him. That's very weird to me. Very weird to me. And the second thing is, if it's one person at ESPN that has stock in James Harden and already put all his money on it, is Bobby Marks. Bobby Marks has said that he thinks James Harden is going to be in the MVP conversation, which to me, that doesn't take away from Joel being the 30-point scorer or anything. To me, that says that Harden is more efficient, shooting the ball more efficiently. And that says to me that he's basically not even Houston Harden. When he first got to Brooklyn and he played, what was it? January, February, March. He was Eastern Conference Player of the Month in February and March. And people were talking about MVP, and some guys were like, "Oh, we can't reward him with MVP because he forced his way out of Houston." If he's even,
that has nothing to do with it. I just want to interrupt you and say that it has nothing to do with it.
Yes. So if anything from there, I'm telling you, if we get that Harden, it's a different ball game.
Yeah. No, I hate stupid arguments like that, because like I said, him forcing his way out of Houston has nothing to do with it. He went to a better team, played even better, and clearly was at an MVP level with Brooklyn. So there's no part of that, screams that he should be or he should be hurt for what he accomplished. But yeah, no, I think that I think the efficiency is key, like you said. If you look at specifically the February that he had in that year with the Brooklyn Nets, I think what was it here? He had averaging 10.7 assists, 8.8 rebounds. You're talking about 25.6 points. And again, he did that on it was 49, 43 and 84.7% shooting. That's an incredible slash line right there. So to put up those stats on those numbers, if he does something such as that, yeah, I can see him in that conversation. Am I expecting that like Bobby Marks? I don't know that I'd say that. I think that that's a little
I know, but I just want to say like Bobby Marks went from like the whole opposite side of that spectrum, like hating on
yeah,
Harden and the Sixers, to like
yeah,
they're the winners of the offseason, the best, and I believe Hart is coming back. Like he's heard something. I don't know what it is, but he's heard something because he put all
yeah.
his eggs in the basket.
No, clearly. So hopefully Harden lives up to Bobby Marks, expectations of him. But it's this power ranking, I'm not trying to like take too much put too much stock into it because again,
Yeah.
as we said, I think it's pretty clear, and Andy summarized it pretty well. That there's a lot that they're not really crediting the Sixers with.
Mhm.
And so this is something that's probably going to change early on in the season, I think.
Yep.
But what's really interesting about it is that right below the Sixers, and this is especially interesting given recent events, the Brooklyn Nets are number 11, which is so Sean Bernard, PSN Zone Sean Bernard, had a very it was funny, but it was completely serious. A tweet that he had the other day, where he was expressing that the Brooklyn Nets could finish first in the East, or they could miss the playoffs, and he would not be surprised either way. And I think that's a very good way of thinking about it, and I think that's kind of the approach ESPN's taking here. I think 11 is kind of a safe spot there, but so the reason why we're having this conversation in the way that we are is that obviously there was all of this drama surrounding Kevin Durant during the offseason. He had demanded a trade. There were talks about Phoenix, talks about Boston, of course, the Philadelphia 76ers, at least among fans, there were talks there. So it really kind of dominated a lot of the offseason and really kind of held up some further transactions. But now, all of a sudden, Kevin Durant, the Brooklyn Nets, they've patched everything up. Uh, Steve Nash and Sean Marks are not getting fired. Kevin Durant is not retiring. And Kevin Durant will, in fact, play for the Brooklyn Nets next season. So now you're looking at Kyrie staying, Kevin Durant staying. You, of course, have Ben Simmons, who, I'm sure he'll play at some point. But it's a team that on the surface, like if you go just like on 2K like overalls,
Oh yeah,
that's a great team,
oh yeah.
stacked team.
Oh yeah.
Game's a lot more complicated than that. The whole Kevin Durant returning thing was super awkward. And this is one of my favorite videos that I actually saw about Kevin Durant returning to the tweet. Big Office fan, obviously, who's not. But let's watch this here real quick because this was fantastic.
We're back together again, baby.
We're back.
They tried to keep us apart, but they couldn't. It was like destiny.
I realized that for whatever reason, I just couldn't do better than Kelly.
Oh.
So that is Mindy Kaling, as Kelly Kapoor, repping the Brooklyn Nets, for BJ Novak, representing Ryan the intern as Kevin Durant, and that's like it's straight up exactly what the situation was like.
Yeah.
I mean, what are your thoughts on this whole? Like, it's crazy. Like, what do you think about this whole thing?
I mean, at the end of the day, it just shows that personally, and I'm not no conspiracy theorist per se, but I think that we had to have I think Kevin Durant will eventually be traded. I'm not saying this season at the trade deadline, like, because to me, Kyrie Irving is out of here. Like, it's just that simple. He's gonna play his last year, he's out of here. The reason I think that is because I think that the Rudy Gobert trade really set the market very high for someone who was nowhere near the talent level of a Kevin Durant. So for them to get however many picks they got, 5 first-round picks, whatever, it's just like that kind of reset the market. It's kind of like an NFL when wide receivers get paid. It's like you keep resetting the market. That set the market at a certain thing to where like the prices that Brooklyn was asking for, like, well, if Rudy Gobert costs this, then Kevin Durant definitely has to cost this. And teams are like, all right, cool. I'm cool with giving up 5 years worth of picks, right? Meaning like 3 picks and swaps. But I'm not giving like 7 years of picks and all these good players, or because y'all don't want to tank, so y'all want good players. Like it's just so much. So I do think that that's kind of where they were. I think they reset and said, "Listen, you don't want to necessarily be here. We're going to work it out until we can figure out the best deal. Everybody will forget about the Rudy Gobert stuff. Other deals will happen. It'll reset the market, and then we can get you out of here. Right now, the best bet is just keep you because we're not going to trade you just for no reason." And I think that at the end of the day, Kevin doesn't want to be looked at. I mean, he clearly cares what people thinks about him, but I don't think he wants to be in the same situation where like you can't have two guys back to back who held out that's on the same team. Like Ben held on the Sixers, then now having the same thing. So ultimately, I think that's what it is. I'm glad it's
Could you
over.
imagine if Ben, Kyrie, and KD all held out?
I mean,
You're talking
I
about
went.
3 all-star level players all holding out, like, even the same year,
Yeah,
That's
it's
insane.
crazy. So to me, I'm just like, honestly, I'm happy it's over, and I'm glad we could stop talking
Yeah.
about it until he's actually traded. And last thing I'll say on that, and then I'm done with the KD thing. Sham said that the best offer was Jaylen Brown, Derek White in the
Mhm.
first round pick.
I might have taken it to be over the drama. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah,
I'm a big Jaylen Brown fan, and I'm also a big Derek White fan. I would have considered it if I'm being honest with you.
yeah.
But we'll see. Maybe he can rehab value. I do think he's going to get traded, like you said. But I know you said you're going to be done with with the Kevin Durant thing, but you're not, and here's why. So, so we are obviously Patrick Beverly stands, and Patrick Beverly, please come to the Sixers. So we do have to acknowledge a certain interaction that was seen on Twitter. So Pat Bev. I'll just read it out here, tweet it out. Y'all can sit and don't say nothing, but that ain't cool. It's dudes with families out here who haven't got a job because of this KD bleep, and to be on and off ain't cool. Blessing gang. So that's the first tweet, right? So without looking at anything else, Justin, just what is your interpretation of that tweet? Without not looking at any other outside facts or anything, what do you think Pat Beverly's saying there?
I think that he was basically saying that for no outcome to happen, that is just, I think he just think it's nutty, and that all of this happened and he's still getting traded, and it basically put the NBA on hold for 3 months.
Yeah.
And basically, I just thinking that's what I think he's saying, and for it to just be like, I'm going, we waiting to figure out what's going to happen, and then boom, I'm staying, and then now people got to figure out what they got to do, what's going to happen, am I going to get signed? Like, there's still tons of free agents, right, that are out there, and this was holding up everything. This was holding up a Kyrie trade, which could make other deals, and it was holding up Pacers possible trades. Like it's just like a whole effect. I mean, it's holding up Patrick Beverly trade because people trying to figure out like it's just
Which honestly, could actually be the root of all this because he's still stuck in Utah.
Yeah, and
as
it's
of
just
right
like
now. So,
bro, like I'm trying to get out of here. Like I'm trying to get to a contender because whatever, and we don't know what assets people gonna have because everybody's on the KD sweepstakes. So I think necessarily not blaming it on KD, but just saying that like he looks like a nut for just not like standing by what he was trying to do.
Right. So, like you said, not necessarily blaming KD, but then, you also did say he is also blaming KD. So with that being said, as Pat Bev is blaming KD a little bit, just a little bit, he's blaming KD, which is not undeserved. It's not undeserved, but he's blaming KD a little bit. So one person who definitely thought that he was blaming KD was Kevin Durant himself, who quote tweeted saying #blame KD, which is absolutely going to be the top hashtag this year.
And I respect KD for not using a burner anymore. He just talks trash to people on his regular Twitter now.
Did he do that on purpose though, or did he just forget the burner again?
No, I think he is, because now at this point, like he just like I seen somebody call him like I seen people just they basically trying to rile him up, get reaction on, and it's just like this girl has said something, and he just like start commenting on her profile picture. I'm like, yo, bro, like.
But like my thing is like if you get caught forgetting to use your burner, like can you still use a burner? Like
True. True.
because that's the ultimate punk move is like
Mhm.
getting caught not using your burner, and which I'm not a burner believer in the first place. Like I think that's kind of like weak stuff. Like say what you got to say, but if you get caught not using your burner when you're trying to, you can't just go back to the burner. Like you've lost burner rights. Like that's not a thing anymore. So, uh, whatever the case, yeah, he's a lot more involved on Twitter, a lot more direct, I guess we'll say. But anyway, so he comes out with the hashtag blame KD, and this is where Pat Bev does like a quick 180 here, saying, this is Patrick Beverley's reply to Kevin Durant. Damn gang, who said I was talking about you? I'm speaking of how it was done. Both sides need to keep that private, but noted. And a little pencil emoji. Not quite sure the point of having that emoji, but that's the future for you. We have emojis for everything. So uh
I think, and this is the best part because Pat Bev keeps the same energy no matter what. So to
yeah.
me, no matter who Patrick Beverley plays for this NBA season, he is going to give KD hell. And I'm not necessarily say guarding him, but he's going to be in his
Mm-hmm.
ear. He's going to be talking trash. He's just going to be
Mm-hmm.
like in his ear because he's just going to keep the same energy. He don't
Yeah.
care. He don't care.
No. And honestly, if I'm being flat honest with you, like this whole interaction, I do kind of hope even more that Pat Beverley comes to the Sixers at this point. Just because I think that's going to make any meeting with the Nets just
Even
that
better.
much more exciting, you know?
Yeah.
So definitely interesting. So
I told you
uh
they're gonna lean it. The Sixers are gonna lean into the dog and I'm telling you,
yeah,
they're
it's
gonna
the
lean
year of the
into it.
dog. I'm fine with that. I never said anything against it. I'm all for it. I just, I just was a little unsure if they would actually do something.
To do that.
Yeah, if they would do that, well, just say that. Yeah, that's a lot kinder than what I was about to say. But yeah, if they would actually do that. But so what we have here now is and this is I think the last thing we have on the KD topic, and then we can move on because this ties back into James Harden and the Sixers. I don't like talking about Bill Simmons. I don't like talking about anyone with the last name Simmons right now, but we're going to mention Bill Simmons, who was a source for this, I guess, for this Bleacher Report piece. Obviously, Simmons has many connections, knows a lot of people, so it's entirely possible. But this is his summary, basically, of the KD Harden situation that kind of lit Sixers Twitter ablaze over the past couple weeks. KD and Harden, and this is actually a quote tweet from the article, quote tweeted by our own Sean Bernard. KD and Harden, this is what I heard. They don't talk after the trade. They basically go radio silent on each other. They run into each other. They hang out all weekend. And by the end of the weekend, KD is sniffing around Philly. And that's Bill Simmons. So my question with this is, we talked earlier about the likelihood of Kevin Durant eventually being traded, even if it's not in the immediate future. So where do you stand on the possibility of Kevin Durant eventually coming to Philadelphia?
If he's available and you can make it happen, I'm still on the stands to do it. It just increases your window that much. But yeah, I think personally, I think there's a window of there's a certain amount of window of when the Sixers will really deem Maxey as that chip to get a quote unquote megastar, or Max is going to ascend into more of a star, and then he becomes off the table for anything. So I think like there's a small window of opportunity if things were to happen where Maxey will be included in the deal. If Maxey makes another leap this season, I don't see him being traded for anybody. Like, to be
Yeah, I
quite
mean
honest.
it's tough because he's got that youth and the potential on his side, whereas Father Time's not on Kevin Durant's side there. So next year, Tobias Harris will only have that final year on his deal. That certainly affects some things. They can add another pick swap come this time next year. Is it possible? I guess I would say so. I'm not necessarily worried about Harden as a flight risk. I think that's the other side of this conversation because people think about how well he has the player option. I don't think James Harden's going to leave Daryl Morey and Joel Embiid, but more importantly, Daryl Morey for Kevin Durant. So um, I think if anything happens, it would be Kevin Durant to Philly. I think this is done with. I think the dream's dead. I think it's over, and I'm okay with that because I'm ready to fully support this team behind first and foremost Joel Embiid, James Harden, and Tyrese Maxey. I mean, that's it, and I'm fine with that. I feel great about that decision, and I think Tyrese Maxey. This is not to say that I would not trade him for anybody. We had that whole conversation about not trading Maxey. And I think that's foolish to not to list a player as like 100% untouchable. With that being said, did you see Tyrese Maxey the other day at the Phillies game?
I was watching the broadcast, and I'm like, I'm walking up the steps. I'm looking, my wife look, is that Tyrese Maxey? And I'm like, and I look at, I said, yo, this kid has the city in the palm of his hand.
Yeah,
Like,
the dude came down like the freaking Beatles, and just people were like screaming and fawning over him. Like he absolutely has the city's heart in his hand. He can do no wrong. He's golden. That's it.
remember that rumor that came out and was like, Clutch wants Tyrese Maxey to be included in any Ben Simmons trade.
Yeah.
I just got
The
like,
way Clutch handled that whole thing still pisses me off till this day. You know, pulling Tyrese from local events, starting trade rumors involving Tyrese Maxey, everything such as that, like absolutely insane. Like I'm so sick and tired of Clutch. Not that there's no tie between them and Philadelphia anymore, of course, but at the same time, it's like at least Ben Simmons is gone because Tyrese isn't like buddy with Rich Paul to the point where Rich Paul starts getting involved in the Sixers affairs. That's the problem. So that's what happens with Ben Simmons and his teams. That's what happens with LeBron James and the Lakers is that you see a lot more Rich Paul involvement. And that's what I don't want to happen at any point to Philadelphia. That's part of why I'm grateful for Tyrese Maxey.
right.
But there's a million reasons to be grateful for Tyrese Maxey. We'll have an appreciation pod for Tyrese Maxey at some point. Maybe his next birthday. Who knows? We haven't figured that out yet. But we love the guy. Everyone does in Philadelphia. We can't wait to see what he has this upcoming season. Speaking of the upcoming season, we now finally have the schedule for 2022-2023. There's been more tension surrounding the schedule drop than there should ever be, with a couple games being dropped here, a couple games being dropped there, because that's how awful the NBA offseason was once the Kevin Durant trade rumors came forward. And it was like a lock. It was legitimately like a lockout once Kevin Durant started these trade rumors. Nothing happened. Nothing at all. It was insane. But anyway, we're on the other side of that now. Kevin Durant trade rumors are done. The schedule's out, all that great stuff. So let's take a look at kind of the top five, in our opinion, top five matchups that we're excited for this Sixers season. And I'll say this again when we get towards the end, but absolutely let us know some of the games that you guys are looking forward to this season. You know, whether they're your favorites, what you think will be the best games. Leave them in the YouTube, channel comments. Definitely leave them in the Twitter comments, wherever that may be, at Baseline Scoop. Just let us know what you're excited for, because it's going to be an exciting season. And with that said, Justin, why don't we start with your number 5 game that you're most looking forward to this season?
So I guess my number 5 game that I'm looking forward to, I guess that's start 5-1. It would be the Minnesota Timberwolves.
Hold on, but we're not going 1 to 5. We're gonna go with the most exciting one, and then we're gonna go with the most boring one on the way out.
You're right. All right,
but you're saying the Timberwolves, which
so
are
the Timberwolves,
least, is your 5, right?
It's 5.
It's your 5. Okay.
Yeah, and the reason I'm saying the Timberwolves is because it's still gonna be a good game, but the reason I believe that is because I feel like it's the perfect matchup and I know they have kind of made up. Joel and Kat have kind of made up specifically around COVID and how it affected both of them personally and family and stuff like that. But it's still like a little budding rivalry there. Cat seems very animated when he plays the Sixers. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. And adding Rudy Gobert to the same team, who Joel just doesn't believe is as impactful as defensively as like he is, and does enough on offense for his team. So playing both of those guys, I just look like Joel is going to be like ready, like suited up, ready, and just like his eyes on the prize to make sure he gets 50 on both their heads. Like both of y'all can guard me, and y'all can both come get whatever I got in this bag. Y'all gonna come get this, and I am looking forward to that. At home too. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. No, I hear you, man. It's to have Gobert and Cat against Embiid in one game. It seems almost too good to be true. And I think that there's going to be, I wouldn't call it a rivalry, but I'm excited to watch any and all future matchups between Tyrese Maxey and Anthony Edwards.
Oh yeah.
Just two of
you're
the
right.
fast rising guards in the league,
Yes, you're
Like,
right.
I'm all about any matchup between those two. Like I said, it's
And-
not like a rivalry. There's nothing like, real like salty between it or anything like that. But they're just so damn good.
And also,
You know?
who doesn't love to see D'Angelo Russell?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't. But thanks anyway, Justin. So looking on to number 5 for me, it's gotta be the first matchup against the Toronto Raptors, and that's Wednesday, October 26th.
Okay.
And it's not hard to see why, right? So
Yeah.
that was just an absolute slugfest. It shouldn't have been, but it was, due to several frustrating reasons. It was a lot more difficult of a first round than it should have been this past year. But after the Pascal Siakam elbow, which, to be clear, does not appear it was intentional.
It was
Siakam and Embiid are chill. So I'm not going to make any, judgments one way or another. I'm absolutely looking forward to him beating their ass, though. I'm going to say right now. Joel Embiid is going to be motivated. He has it circled on the calendar. He could be best friends with Pascal Siakam after the game if he wants. But during that game, he's going to be locked in. You know it. And it's going to be huge for Embiid. It's going to be a huge night out of him.
So I agree. Also, a couple underrated storylines. So the first one is the whole, oh my gosh, like everybody showed one play with Scotty Barnes, quote unquote, locking up James Harden. Where if you watch, literally, you can go on YouTube to Rico Hines' basketball page and watch the entire runs. They're like an hour long, and he scored on Scotty Barnes plenty of times. But that's another underrated storyline. And then for me, it's just like, it's going to be a great night on Twitter, Sixers Twitter, NBA Twitter.
Yeah.
Because Toronto Raptors fans are the most obnoxious and ridiculous fan base. And
Filthy
they
Twitter
really
fandom.
ride this Kawhi championship into the ground. Like, outside of that, they were underachievers, just like the Sixers. Like, period.
Yeah.
So, and to me, everybody is high on the Raptors because they went on a nice little run. And I'm not knocking and saying the Raptors are a bad team. I like Scotty Barnes as well.
I love the way they've built their team, and I love the Raptors team itself.
But they didn't get better in the offseason. To me, they added Otto Porter Jr., which gives them another two-way three.
That helps, but it's minimal.
Guy. But outside of that, unless they're going to get something for OG and Nobi, which have yet to be seen, which could definitely improve their roster.
Why the hell is he on the trade market to begin with? Like, that's the thing I can't figure out. Like, if I look at one piece,
he's good.
Outside of Scotty Barnes in Toronto that I want to keep, it's OG Anunoby. Like, he could absolutely, I would have no problem. Like, forget Gary Trent Jr. Like, trade him somewhere while his value is high, because I don't think that's going to last. But OG can be your, you give an opportunity to Andy popped in. This is going to be great. I'm sure he's got something real good here. But Fred VanVleet, like, obviously, he's going to put up some scoring numbers. Siakam, you still have, for some reason, him being on the team makes no sense to me. But letting OG be more of a featured scorer has always been the simple solution to this problem. And I don't understand why they won't do it.
Yeah, I think that's his problem as well, and why they're looking into trading him or not looking into trading him. They've been on and off with the rumors, but it's been said that he's looking for a larger role than the Raptors are willing to provide him, or at least Nick Nurse is.
Yeah.
Maybe because they just got too many chefs in the kitchen. They got too many ball handlers there, and I mean, I'm not as high on OG as you. I think he's a great player. He's probably a damn good third option on any contending team that has two players better than him. But I think he wants to be kind of that number two at the least, and I don't know if that's going to work out.
I would agree he's a number 3. Just looking at Toronto, I don't know that they have a true number 1 or number 2 option at the moment. Like Fred VanVleet is a guy who I love his versatility because he can be a 2 through 4 scoring option. And he can really just kind of blend to fit whatever your actual need for him is. But when you look at like a bona fide, you need like a killer number 1, like a Kawhi Leonard level number 1 for Fred VanVleet to be like your number 2 guy scoring or even really like your number 3. So to have OG like as number 3 scoring guy, I think Barnes is great in that like super Draymond, 4th option kind of role.
Yeah,
So
he's a really good, and he's only going to get better. But right
yeah,
now, his attacking the basket as well as his facilitation from the
yeah,
3 to 4 is really, really good, and it opens it up so
yeah,
that Van Fleet or Trent don't have to have the ball in their hands at all times. I do think
yeah,
it's going to come down to a point where, in my opinion, for Scotty Barnes to blossom, and this is just me talking,
yeah.
Scotty Barnes to blossom, Siakam has to take a back seat. Because I think
Siakam has to take a bus to another town is I think what has to happen. I mean, I just don't know like what I don't understand how they think that they can build around like are they going to keep Siakam at the 5 because like that would work like against teams like Golden State who's putting out like who the hell cares at center, but anytime you go up against even like Minnesota, you're going to have a nightmare of a problem. Philadelphia, you're not doing anything. If you play against Denver, maybe you get some offensively, but you're going to get killed defensively against Jokic. Like just against these teams that actually do
Chicago,
have
like Vucevic will still be a matchup problem for.
Yeah, but he's like an
Siakam.
outside guy, and he's getting up there in years. And I don't know. I'm not overly high on Chicago. Vucevic is definitely a higher end center. I just think there's flaws in his game. I think for Siakam, like the real problem is guys who are going to kind of beat him down in the post, or just wear him out. So anyone there, not Bam Adebayo because he can't do anything offensively but rim run. But when you look at some of these other top center options, I think that's really where you're going to see it. DeAndre Ayton, if he had that dog in him, he'd be a guy who could give Siakam some real problems. But so there's a lot with Toronto that just filled with potential, littered with potential. It's going to be interesting what happens over the next couple years, seeing who they can get to fill that number 1, that number 2 role. But I do love in general how they built their team. Maybe it's a little bit spreading out, but that's a lot of time we just spent on Toronto. We're going to have a lot of Toronto coverage later this year. But this is not a Toronto Raptors podcast. Thankfully, this is a much more fun podcast than that. So we're going to move on. Justin, who's your number 4 matchup?
Number 4 matchup is at Denver on 3
at 4.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
At 4 at Denver. And of
so
course,
do you want to mention the obvious highlight of a Sixers Denver matchup?
I mean, yeah, none of you need to go into that, but
that's where it starts. Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. Like any matchup between those two, forget the MVP conversation. Even like it's literally just as much as these are the 2 best players at their position. Like,
yep. And
this
two
is an
different
insane
games,
gift
like
to be able to watch.
Yep. So I agree. That's my 4. But yeah, that matchup alone is must see TV for me.
Yeah, no, I hear it. I respect it absolutely. For me, number 4, it's the first matchup against the Miami Heat, which, if you believe this, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't believe that I am, The first matchup between the Sixers and the Miami Heat is not until February,
Wow.
and end of February at that, February 27th,
Wow.
which is absolutely insane. But being able to match up against a team that knocks you out of the playoffs is always something that I look forward to. And on top of that, we took PJ Tucker from him this offseason. I'm absolutely and the Jimmy Butler storyline, which is always going to be there. It's going to be an exciting game, hard fought. Um, who knows? Maybe Markieff Morris is either back in Miami and is mad at Philadelphia didn't sign him, or maybe he finds his way in Philadelphia if there ends up being some kind of consolidation trade before the season. And at that point, that's good motivation against
His old
Miami.
team.
So we'll
Yep.
see. We'll see.
Cool. I like that.
So what's up for your number 3?
Number 3 to me is opening night at Boston. That's my number 3.
Interesting. Okay. So
And
what is your thought on the Celtics this season after, of course, they added Malcolm Brogdon?
I mean, they got better. I mean,
Yeah.
this is you give credit where credit is due. Like they made it to the finals. They got better. Specifically depth wise with Brogdon and Gallinari. Offensively, I know you don't really believe in Brogdon's defense, but he has some defensive versatility. And I think it allows them to have those moments where they can play Grant Williams or Gallinari in particular situations where Grant Williams may not necessarily. I mean, he hit 7 threes in the conference final, like Game 7, conference semifinals. But as far as like having more of a knockdown shooter, and Gallinari does have, like, he's been in the league for a long time. He has some tricks in the trade. He has a good game for his age and size. So I do see that. But Boston got better, period, straight up. And I think coming out the gate, it'll be a good test coming out the gate for the Sixers and for Boston. But I don't think whatever the outcome of this game is, I don't think that's going to dictate anything on, the season of the both teams. I'm not saying whoever wins this is going to the finals, whoever loses didn't blow up the season. Like, I just think it's the first game. Anything can happen in the first game, but I just think that is one of those things where it's going to be good for television.
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of about the perfect opening night that you could have, for the Sixers going up against hated rival. All the storylines there, the Jason Tatum pick is going to be talked about forever. Basically, should just acknowledge that, as well as Jaylen Brown over Ben Simmons, or rather vice versa, and everything in between. Like, this is such a storied, hated rivalry. Where on top of that, the Celtics are they're good. Like, there's, like you said, credit where credit's due. They're fantastic. They made the finals. They added Brogdon. They got better. And Brogdon is an okay defender. You're gonna notice a huge difference between him and Marcus Smart, and even Derek White. You're gonna notice a huge difference defensively. He's just in a lower tier than those guys. But he's not Devin Booker, defensively. Like, he's not Bradley Beal. Like, he like can actually defend some,
Right.
So and in that system he's gonna be fine, I think, too. But between his addition, getting Robert Williams another year in the league, a little more experience is always great. Grant Williams having another year of experience is huge for them as well. Some people are curious about the chemistry after everything that happened with the KD trade rumors. I don't think that's going to be an issue, if I'm being honest, especially after they're since squashed effectively. Boston really showed that they do value Jaylen Brown by this offer that, alleged offer that got out there. That shows a lot of value in Jaylen Brown. So I'm not too worried about that angle of it all. So I think it's just going to be, I hope it's a good game. I think the Sixers got a lot better too. So I think it will be a good game. It'd be deflating to see them get killed. But I think that they have more than a fair chance to not only get a few punches in, but potentially even win this game against Boston. And if they win that opening night matchup, which again, I think that there is a chance that they can do that, that's huge. That's a huge way to start the season. They're actually also my number 3 pick as well. That's one of the games that I'm looking forward to the most. I think it's going to be fantastic. But Justin, what's your number 2, man?
Number 2 is when the defending champs, Golden State Warriors, come to Philly December 17th. I feel like the last couple years, Golden State and Philly have always had really good games, right? And one is always good to see Steph. 2 is just, I mean, just Clay back. But the last, honestly, that game where Steph tried to break the record, that was an amazing game at home. And I just think like Embiid and Curry have so much respect for each other. It's just going to be a good showing, a good outing by all the stars in this one. I'm looking forward to that. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we had Sixers have James Harden, but the Steph Curry thing is no longer a storyline. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that game a lot.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely going to be a great game. Like you said, anytime you get to watch Steph, it's something special. I love Golden State games because it's an opportunity for Embiid to feast, but it be competitive. Just because these teams are very different in a lot of ways, and to be able to watch Steph go up against James Harden, against Philadelphia this year. Yeah, no, I'd be stoked for that. That's an exciting game, one that I would recommend anyone go to if they can. But for me, my number 2, this is where I have Denver, right? Because you see, here's the thing: Joel Embiid might be over the MVP debate. I'm not. If you want to tell me that Nikola Jokic was the MVP of the league in the season 2020 to 2021. Okay, that's fine. I get it. Availability is a skill. You have to have that. I totally get it. But if you want to tell me that he was the MVP this past season over Joel Embiid after Embiid improved in every notable area in the game, he put up numbers we have not seen since Shaq. His team was true night and day with and without him. And he led his team in a harder conference to a higher standing. I don't want to hear about similar records or anything like that. His conference was more difficult. There's a lot more parity in the East than there was in the West. And he led his team to a higher seed. Now, the argument against him was constantly, well, oh, he has James Harden. Oh, he has Tobias Harris. Nobody does anything but crap on Tobias Harris unless the conversation turns to Joel Embiid for MVP. Nobody did anything last year but say James Harden was cooked unless the conversation was Joel Embiid for MVP. So I don't care if Joel Embiid is done with the MVP conversation, which he frankly should be, because it's out of his control. That's it. No matter how well he plays, he's not guaranteed to win the MVP. Focus on the game, focus on winning. But I am damn sure going to be focused on that MVP race this year, because this is the chance for revenge. Even if it's not the race itself, I will look forward to an opportunity for him to, and I don't mean this literally, like I'm not talking like some Morris stuff, like smack him in his teeth, metaphorically speaking, is what I want to see Joel Embiid do to Nikola Jokic. I like that. That is like, just as a fan of the Sixers, would be so cathartic for me to watch them dismantle, destroy Denver with Joel Embiid taking the lead.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, your monologue that you just had, you upset all the Vorp dorks. So I just want to let you know they might be in your mentions.
And pity MVP campaign, my ass. All right. If he wins the MVP this year, it's going to be nothing but deserved. I don't want to hear about, oh, they're setting him up by putting all these primetime games, which they have 34 primetime games. We should have mentioned that the Sixers do on their entire schedule, which is fantastic and a real sign of how great of a player they have there in Joel Embiid. So take that. But like there's no pity. When has the NBA pitied the Philadelphia 76ers? When have they given the 76ers anything more than the Sixers took for themselves?
Yeah, that's why. And then that night is going to be good because like I I'm not gonna say his name on this podcast, but you know the guy I'm talking about. I'm right at him. As soon as the
Yeah.
Nuggets catch that L, I'm
Yeah,
right at him.
the very second, believe it. Yeah.
I
All
can't
right.
wait.
Well, that's it for Denver. Until then, we have 2K battles that we can do. But best believe that that's a game that we're absolutely looking forward to. January 28th. It's going to be a great game. Nice, relaxing 3 p.m.er right there. So that's my number 2. So now we get down to the last one. We get down to our number ones, and I have a feeling.
It's the
Call it
same
a
number
hunch.
one.
I have a feeling. I think that we might have the same number 1.
Yeah, we
So
do.
Justin, what do you got?
I got 11-22 versus the Brooklyn Nets.
That's it. That's what it's got to
That's
be.
the number one, and it's because Mr. Ramp Up should be ramped up by then. And again, I'm not hating on Ben. I want to see him do really well.
I do too, if I'm being honest.
But I need to see him playing in the atmosphere of the Wells Fargo Center with every fan, every kid. I'm gonna take my son. By that time, he's gonna be 6 months. I'm gonna be having him yell at Ben too. So I can't, I need to be that atmosphere. That game is going to be, the vibe around that game is going to be crazy, even crazier with the March 10th thing. Like, this is going to be crazy. And to see Ben and just the first missed free throw he has, or like the second half, and Frosty's, it's going to be ridiculous.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, it's going to be insane. Now, so certified game of the year, we're only talking in theory because that's all we can do for right now. But that's, if you're buying tickets now, that's the one to buy a ticket to. Just like you said, the atmosphere is going to be insane there. I do agree. I do want Ben to figure his stuff out. I want him to figure out what's going on, and I want him to get better going forward. That's why this night's so important, because this is the purge night, right? This is the night where just straight mollywop him in the Nets, and then that's it. And then, you wipe your hands, everybody shakes hands and moves on from there, But you need that one night just to say you done messed up, and that's it. And then it's over, and then it's all done. So that's hard and away my number one. And this is the fear. Yeah. So that is the fear. So we got a meme up now of Ben Simmons when the Nets visit the Sixers. It's the guy peacing out and fading away. If there's back tightness that night, so help me.
I know.
If there is anything that night, so I will keep the same energy just for the next time they match up.
Exactly. You can't hide
and
run
you can't
forever.
run forever.
And the worst part is, you done messed up. Sixers fans travel. We get on the first thing smoking to Brooklyn,
not that
and
far,
baby.
There. I take that chain all the time. I know what you're talking about. We're right there.
So come on now.
Yeah.
Don't run from it. See, it's like I look at it as when people are preseason football, and it's they just want to get the first hit out. You just gotta get the first hit. You take the first booing, shellacking, and then you just move on. He'll definitely get booed every time he comes here, but it won't ever be as bad as the first time.
No, you're right. You're 100% right. And that's the thing. So he's got to rip the Band-Aid off. It's going to be good for him too.
Yeah.
It's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be enjoyable, but I do think it's going to be an experience that overall will be good and will be healthy for him. So I hope again that he figures it out. I hope that he plays in that first matchup against Philly. Again, it's also bigger than Ben Simmons though too, because there's still that James Harden Brooklyn Nets connection. There's still that James Harden and PJ Tucker versus Kevin Durant angle there as well. And then on top of that, there's Joel Embiid versus Kevin Durant, which you're looking at two of the top players in the entire league who go at each other every time they play. And my favorite part of that entire, I'll even call it a rivalry at this point, is the respect that they show each other. Like this is one where it's like there's no like magic bird rivalries anymore. Like there's guys who hate each other, but they're not usually like good enough to like actually like have that kind of an impact on the game. But this is, I think, what you would call like a kind of modern version of that. Even like a KG Tim Duncan almost. Where there's that passion there. These players who are so like generationally talented. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for any and all matchups between Joel Embiid and KD. So looking forward to this season. It's going to be a great one.
Yep.
A lot to still go on. Is there anything else, as we wrap up that you're looking forward to this season? Like what's the one thing on your mind, Justin?
I don't know. I'm just looking forward to seeing the new additions and how the Sixers play, specifically with the new additions, starting lineup, stuff like that. And I'm really curious to see if there's another marginal moves made on the roster, specifically around like guys like Furkan Korkmaz and Matisse Thybulle. But outside of that, I mean, fresh start, healthy Harden, increased, a better Tyrese Maxey, a Joel Embiid on a mission. I'm just looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to, that's probably the main thing, just getting those guys healthy, starting all together after their training camp and really figuring out an identity, say games 1 through 30 instead of games 60 through 80.
Yeah. No, for me, Tyrese Maxey is definitely near the top of that list. And then the other thing, of course, is, you mentioned the new additions. How do they look come playoff time? Because that's what this all is about. That's what this has entirely been building for. Obviously they need better players throughout the regular season. That's not been something hidden away from anyone watching their games. But beyond that, they need playoff contributors. And now having PJ Tucker, DeAnthony Melton, I would include Daniel House in that. And then, like you said, any other potential players they add along the way, because this is going to be a buyout destination for sure. Philadelphia is. So depending on who actually can manage to get bought out of their contracts, I do expect Philadelphia to be among the teams, the teams involved in landing one of those big fish near the buyout deadline. So it's going to be an exciting year. It's going to be a lot of fun. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening to us, for watching along with us. Be sure to catch us on our YouTube channel, under the Philly Sports Network YouTube channel, I should say. Check us out on Spotify, Apple Music, anywhere you listen to podcasts. And leave us with your thoughts on the NBA season coming up, thoughts on the Kevin Durant trade that never was, the power rankings for Philadelphia. Number 10 still doesn't sit right with me, and anything and everything Sixers in between. So thank you so much for listening to us. I've been Zach Chavalella. He's been Justin Crosby, and we just hit you with the Baseline Scoop.
It's